BMW cannot get away with this. Hello guys, welcome back to another video. You have joined me from my 2005 BMW 130i. Now, if I was to tell you that there is a problem with this car, you wouldn't be surprised, would you? It's a 17, almost 18-year-old car, and it's covered 140 odd thousand miles. You would expect there to be a few problems with this car, right? Now, yes, that is a fair assumption, but I'm going to be talking today about a problem that should never ever have came up, and in my opinion it should be BMW's responsibility to put it right. So the problem that I'm going to be talking about in this video not only affects my car, not only affects BMW 1 Series of the same generation, that's the BMW E81, E82, E87 and E88. It also affects the entire BMW E90 generation as well, so the E90, E91, E92 and E93. So that's 8 different chassis of cars that it affects. So it's pretty fair to say that it probably affects in excess of 1 million cars worldwide. And the issue that I'm going to talk about, BMW don't really want to know about it, and believe me, I know why. So let's get straight into it then, shall we? Around a year ago now, maybe a year and a half ago, I want to say, when I filled up my fuel tank, I noticed that there was a pretty strong smell of fuel, and at the time I didn't really think anything of it. I just sort of, it just went straight over my head, and I thought, oh, I don't know, it's just because I've just filled up, there's fuel in the air, and that's obviously what I can smell. And then I noticed it the next time that I filled up the tank right to the brim. And so I checked under the back seat, that is where the fuel tank is located, and I thought, oh, maybe the seal has gone around the fuel pump. That wasn't the case. It was like completely dry there. I attempted to reseal it anyway. I was thinking, oh, maybe fumes are escaping there or something like that. Yeah, that wasn't the case. So I just sort of forgot about it. I didn't really, make a big thing of it. I just thought, oh, I don't know, maybe it's just one of those things that happen. Maybe it's normal to smell fuel when you fill up. I don't know. I just sort of forgot about it for the best part of a year or so. And then I had to take this car for an MOT, which if you're not in the UK, it's basically a yearly inspection. And I had just put a fresh full tank of fuel in this because it had been, at the time, it had been off the road for, I want to say, about 6 months or so. So I thought I'll top it up, get a fresh full tank of fuel in, and all will be good. So yeah, filled up the fuel tank, headed straight for its inspection, its MOT. They put it up on the ramps, and then they very quickly said to me, we can't do this MOT. I was like, wait, what do you mean you can't do this MOT? And they said, you have fuel leaking here. We can't MOT a car that is leaking fuel. And I was like, wait, leaking fuel? That's the first I heard of it. Anyway, they showed me the leaking fuel. They allowed me to go underneath the car, and what do you know, there was leaking fuel. And we're not just talking, a very inconsistent drip. We are talking about a lot of fuel, like seemingly pouring out of the fuel tank from somewhere. So I thought, oh, I don't know, maybe is this like, I don't know, a split fuel hose, or like, what could it be? It could be a number of things. Is the fuel tank cracked? I thought that was pretty unlikely given the fact that I hadn't had any sort of impact. And then I thought, I'm going to go away, I'm going to do a little bit of research, and then I'll bring my car back to have an MOT. So pretty quickly after I'd done a bit of research, I found out that it is a very common problem on these cars and on the models that I have forementioned, for the fuel tank vent pipe to rub through on the chassis. So essentially there is a sharp piece of metal on the chassis and the fuel tank vent pipe just rubs on it. Now, why it does this, I don't know. I don't know if, it's just down to a poor casting, when the chassis were built, or what. I don't think this, this piece of metal had to be sharp. B&W should have just ground it down from factory, and they should have seen this issue cropping up. So yeah, it's a very, very common problem. It happens to a lot of people, and basically to fix the issue, you have to replace the pipe. There is some people that try to repair it, tape it up or whatever, but realistically you want to replace the pipe. Now usually you think, oh, that's not much of an issue, how much can a pipe cost, right? And yeah, you'd be right. The part itself is probably £50 or less, which for a genuine BMW part is relatively cheap. But that's not the thing. The thing that really hits you is how much labor is involved to replace this pipe. We're not talking an hour or 2 hours, we're talking like the best part of a whole day, because to access this pipe, you can't just access it through the wheel arch. You don't just take the wheel arch liner off, you have to drop down the entire fuel tank. Now I know people are going to be commenting on this like, oh, why don't you just drill a hole underneath your back seat? Of course you can do that, and you can probably access the pipe, but you shouldn't really be drilling a hole in your chassis, should you? Just so you can access a pipe a lot easier. So yeah, I thought, this isn't, it's not good. Obviously I want to rectify it. In the meantime, I'm not going to completely brim my tank, because it only seems to be an issue when I brim the tank. It doesn't seem to be an issue, if it's like less than full. So yeah, I'm just not going to brim the tank in the meantime. I did, however, thought it would be a good idea to reach out to my local BMW dealership, and I think you kind of get through to a reception first, basically explain the situation to the person on the reception, and they said, okay, we'll put you through to the service centre, I think it was. And then they sort of seemed a bit confused as to what I was trying to ask. I basically asked, is this, or would you consider this to be a recall, given the fact that it is a very, very common problem? If it's not a recall, if it's not covered by a recall, would you consider doing it as a goodwill gesture? Basically, in BMW terms, that means, would you consider doing it free of charge? Now, I'm not one for, begging for things to be done for free. I'm not one for complaining, but given the fact that this is a fuel leaking situation, it's a common problem. It pretty much affects all the different models of BMWs that I've mentioned. And not only that, I actually noticed the fuel was dripping on the main positive battery terminal. Now, if that is not like the biggest fire risk you can possibly think of, petrol, a very highly flammable liquid, dripping onto the main electrical cable for your car, I don't know what can be a bigger fire risk than that. But they basically didn't want to know about it. They said, okay, we're hearing what you're saying, but we're going to have to book you in to do some investigating about this, and we're going to charge you £120 for the initial diagnostic charge, and then we'll have to see what can be done from there. And so basically I said, well, would you not like to rectify this, you know, as a goodwill gesture? You know, just you've only got to speak to technicians and they'll know that it's a common problem and it should have been, you know, it shouldn't have ever occurred. I think they did make an updated part because this is a mid 2006 car. I think it has the old style breather hose on it. I think they did update it. Now I don't know if some cars got the updated part free of charge or whatever. I don't know how they you know, introduced that new part, or if it was literally just on, you know, later models from factory. But it did seem that BMW were made aware of this issue and they did try to fix it with an updated part. So it's not as if they didn't know about it at all. So yeah, I wanted to give them the opportunity to basically, you know, rectify this issue, you know, as a goodwill gesture. And like I said, they just basically kept saying we would have to get it in for an initial diagnostic. We'll have to basically charge £120 for the pleasure of just checking what the issue is, and then they would discuss if it could be done as a goodwill gesture. And I basically said to them, like, I don't want to have to pay £120 just for you to decide whether or not you're going to do it as a goodwill gesture. Like, I'm not going to do that. And they basically said, oh well, all we can suggest really is that you contact BMW customer services, you know, directly themselves. And I am kind of considering that, but realistically I think it's just going to be a waste of time. I mean, they're just going to basically try and redirect you to a dealership or say, oh, you need to get it booked in and you need to get diagnostics work done on it. So it basically seems that BMW have not put this issue down as a recall, given the fact of how much work is involved. I know there was a couple of other recalls for this car, one of them being with the blower motor, and then I think there was one for a positive battery cable as well. I'm not too sure if that is on the BMW 1 Series or if that was on the possibly 3 and 5 Series, but yeah, it's BMW just don't want to know about this issue just because of how much labour is involved. They don't want to have to literally, you know, give a whole day of labour away free of charge. That's the only thing that I can really think of. Let me know if you guys have experienced the same issue with your BMW 1 or 3 Series. I'm very interested to know. Let me know if anything has been done, you know, if you've had any success getting this done as a goodwill gesture from BMW directly. I know so many people just swap this part out without even giving it a thought, but you know, come on, it's a fire risk at the end of the day, and that's generally what recalls cover. So yeah, guys, I'm interested to know your thoughts as well. Let me know if I'm being over the top, or let me know if I'm being reasonable. I want to thank you all for watching. As always, please remember to give this video a like, leave a comment down below, subscribe if you have not already done so, and of course I'll see you all in the next one.